Thank you, Chairman Hawley, Chairman Corin. I want to acknowledge, as others already have, the veterans who are here today and all veterans who served our country so well. This hearing was scheduled in the aftermath of a horrific tragedy on November 26 when a gunman ambushed 2 National Guard members here in Washington. I offer my deepest condolences to the family of Specialist Sarah Beckm, who lost her life in that attack, and I'm keeping Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf in my thoughts and prayers, as I'm sure many are. At the outset, I want to note my disappointment that there are no witnesses here today representing the executive branch agencies that are responsible for vetting immigrants. There are many questions we would ask them. The lead question is obvious. Why did the Trump administration's USCIS grant asylum last year to the shooter just months before this deadly attack? We do have witnesses from several inspector general's offices, but President Trump illegally fired the heads of those 2 offices, and I'm concerned these offices may now be reluctant to criticize Trump administration action. Unfortunately, the administration has used the heinous actions of one person to paint an entire community as a threat to America. 2 days before this tragedy, the administration ordered a review of all refugees who entered the United States under the previous president, requiring a re-interview of nearly 200,000 people. 200,000. After the shooting, the Trump administration announced a flurry of additional measures to crack down on legal immigrants. They halted all asylum decisions and announced a plan to re-examine green cards for immigrants from 39 countries the president has deemed countries of concern, including Afghanistan. The administration also began canceling naturalization interviews and ceremonies based on an individual's country of origin, and they suspended visa and immigration processing for all from Afghanistan. Listen to what Chris Purdy, a veteran who served in Iraq, said about the Trump administration policies, and I quote, "Tragedy should not be used to flatten complex realities, erase years of life-saving work, or cast suspicion on an entire community that stood shoulder to shoulder with the United States in our longest war." Afghan allies are extensively vetted population. They were vetted in Afghanistan before they were hired to work, to stand beside and help protect our troops. They were vetted again when seeking safety in the United States. Sometimes that vetting went on for months and longer. And again after they arrived through a rigorous, recurring process involving multiple federal agencies. These allies served alongside America's service members through 2 decades of war. They risked their lives, and many gave their lives, to support our troops. So what happened to these allies, these friends, those who stood behind us when they needed our support? Let's look to our veterans for that perspective. The Iraq and Afghan Veterans of America conducted a survey of their members last fall. More than 70% of the respondents disagreed with the following statement. Disagreed. Since 2001, the United States government has done enough to support our Afghan allies. It is obvious to those who served that we owe so much more to these allies. When asked about the detention of Afghans who were going through the immigration process, 70% of respondents agreed that the detentions brought them, quote, a deep sense of personal shame or moral injury. They know that we treated them badly. Our service members need to know that when they're in the line of fire and depending on foreign allies to protect their lives, that the United States will stand by those allies after the confrontation. Who will put their lives on the line for our service members in the next war after watching our treatment of Afghan allies who were detained and deported to a country where they could be imprisoned or killed for their work with us? America is better for those service members having returned home, and America is better for their Afghan allies who now call our nation home. It is time for us to stand behind those who put their lives on the line for our service members. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Craig.
During a congressional hearing chaired by Senator Josh Hawley and Chairman Corin, lawmakers opened by honoring U.S. veterans and addressing a deadly attack that shook the nation. The hearing followed the November 26 ambush in Washington, D.C., where National Guard Specialist Sarah Beckm was killed and Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf was seriously injured. Lawmakers offered condolences to Beckm's family and prayers for Wolf's recovery. The Speaker expressed frustration that no executive branch officials from immigration vetting agencies were present to testify. A central question remains unanswered. Why did U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, under the Trump administration, grant asylum to the alleged shooter just months before the attack? While witnesses from several inspector general offices testified, concern was raised that their independence may be compromised after President Donald Trump fired the heads of 2 oversight offices, potentially discouraging criticism of administration policies. The speaker warned that the administration has used the attack to justify sweeping immigration crackdowns, unfairly targeting entire communities. Just days before the shooting, the administration ordered a review of nearly 200,000 refugees admitted under the previous administration. After the attack, the Trump administration halted all asylum decisions, announced plans to re-examine green cards from 39 countries, including Afghanistan, and suspended visa, immigration, and naturalization processes based on country of origin. Quoting Chris Purdy, a U.S. Army veteran who served in Iraq, the speaker emphasized that tragedy should not be used to erase years of life-saving work by Afghan allies who stood beside American troops. Purdy noted that Afghan allies underwent extensive, multi-layered vetting before and after entering the United States and served alongside U.S. forces for 2 decades. A survey by Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America found that over 70% of veterans believe the U.S. has not done enough to support Afghan allies, and the same number said detaining Afghans during the immigration process caused them a deep sense of moral injury. The speaker concluded by warning that abandoning Afghan allies damages America's credibility and puts future U.S. service members at risk. Lawmakers were urged to stand by those who risked their lives in support of American troops.